Hello, I'm Sayojita. Today's dish is just about ready to go to the table. I have made chicken biryani. Moist, spicy, succulent pieces of chicken layered with aromatic rice and garnished with some cashew nuts and crispy fried onions. Today I have made Khoja style biryani where the chicken or the mutton, also you can use the same recipe to make mutton, is cooked along with the rice. There are many varieties of biryani where the rice and the meat are cooked separately. Here we do parboil, cook the rice partially separately, but the meat is cooked with the rice. That means we put the raw marinated chicken, layer the rice over it, and then just slow cook the whole thing, which is called cooking on dum. Biryani is perfect for large parties. In fact, it is very difficult to make it in very small quantities. Guests will find it irresistible, and you as a host will find it oh so convenient. All you need as accompaniment is a raita and a dessert to follow. Maybe for an extra special meal, another vegetable dish. That's it. Believe it or not, biryani is a breeze to prepare. Most of the work can be done hours ahead of time, and the final cooking can be done just about 2 hours before you're ready to serve. And what's more, you don't even need to be in the kitchen for that. Just keep the pot on the stove and then you can go and mingle with your guests, serving your starters and cocktails and what have you. That's the beauty of it. Well, let's take a look at how you make it. Cooking on dum is the single longest task in making this biryani. However, it's not the hardest. In fact, I would say it's the easiest. You really don't have to do anything while the biryani is cooking. Maybe just keep an eye on it every so often. Most of the work has to be done well ahead of time, in the form of a few independent tasks that you can do in whichever order that works for you at the time. This one is, I think, the most labor-intensive of them all, which is making the birista or the crispy fried onion. This biryani needs a lot of birista and therefore a lot of onions to chop and fry. If you're making biryani in a large quantity, particularly 2 or 3 kgs of chicken, then you will need to follow a couple of shortcuts. Birista stays in the fridge for a long time, no problem. So if you have to make a lot of it instead of doing it all in one go, you can start 3 or 4 days before and make a little bit at a time. For this biryani, we need birista for 2 purposes. One is to be mixed with the chicken and forms the gravy base, and the other is for garnish. Clearly, the one that we need to use for garnish must look beautiful and be crisp and perfect. I would say don't take any shortcuts with that one. But you don't need a lot of that. Maybe around 2 or 3 tablespoons per head. That's not a lot. The one that goes along with the chicken now, you need a fair amount of. And this is where you can definitely cut corners a little bit. The birista doesn't need to be crisp because once it goes in the chicken, you really cannot tell it apart. All you want is for it to be nicely brown and discreet. You don't want a lump of onions. That's it. And that's what I have done. The next step is to marinate the chicken. Ideally, you want to marinate the chicken for as long as possible, up to 12 hours prior even. If you don't have all the ingredients, so be it. They can be added later. Most of the marination ingredients are anyway very simple. You'll have them in your kitchen, chili powder and garlic and ginger and green chilies and things like that. So do go ahead and do this earlier. So you will have an opportunity to add some of the other things later. For example, your birista may not be ready 12 hours before, and that's okay. It needs to be added only about an hour before you assemble your biryani. Therefore, I call this phase 1 of marination. The chicken, drumsticks and thighs which have been halved. We prefer slightly smaller pieces, but if you can't source cut pieces of chicken, then you can use thighs and drumsticks whole. Generally, biryani is made with large pieces of meat. The seasonings, garlic, ginger and green chilies, coarsely chop everything. Take no time over this. I'm not going to use the respective pastes. I'm going to make a paste of all these together along with some of the yogurt that I will use in the marinade. The exact quantity of the yogurt doesn't really matter, what you use in the paste. But the total amount must be fixed because excess yogurt would add excess moisture to the chicken while cooking, and that's a no-no for biryani. The yogurt, I'm using store-bought. Thick yogurt is preferred because the chicken will release moisture as well. And we don't want the yogurt to also have a lot of water because then the biryani will be watery, and this is not something you want. And coriander and mint leaves, they can be coarsely chopped. No need to spend time on this either. The birista, as I mentioned earlier, it need not be crisp and pretty looking, and you can add it later if you do not have it now. Lemon juice, chili powder. I use a mix of Kashmiri chili and hot red chili powders, but you can use just hot chili powder and just reduce the quantity. Garam masala. Last of all, salt. And the salt we are putting is only for what the chicken needs. The rice will have its own. Mix everything, put it in a dabba and refrigerate. That is if you're going to make the biryani after many hours. If you're going to make it within 2 to 3 hours, there is no need to refrigerate the chicken. Even though the chicken has most of the spices and the seasonings, the success of your biryani depends largely on the rice used. The rice in the biryani should be soft but separate and not mushy and lumpy. So use the best quality basmati rice that you can. Aromatic with long grains. Brown basmati rice works well too. So for those of you who don't want to use polished white rice, go ahead with brown basmati rice. The rice for the biryani should be partially cooked. The latest that you can have this rice done is about 2.5 hours before you're ready to serve your biryani. You can do it as early as 5 or 6 hours. That's up to you. Well, let's make the rice now. Basmati rice should be washed well and soaked for about half an hour before using. Add ghee to the pot and the whole spices, bay leaves, cinnamon, black cardamom, green cardamom and black peppercorns. Fry until they are aromatic. Drain the rice and add it to the pot. Increase the heat and toss for a few minutes, making sure not to break the grains of rice until the grains get a little opaque. I usually like to cook the rice in a chicken broth, but you can also just use water or a combination of broth and water. What I will say though is not to use the broth cubes or broth with vegetables and carrots and all that. I just make my chicken broth by boiling chicken with a lot of bones with salt and pepper, and that's it. No other flavorings. Do not stir at all. Make sure all the grains are under the water. Cover and cook on low heat for about 10 minutes. Oops, I forgot to add the salt. Remember, your broth will have some, so adjust your quantity accordingly. Back to cooking the rice. And the rice is ready. It should only be about 50% cooked. As I said, the grain should still be hard on the inside and all the water should have evaporated. If the water has not evaporated, then you must drain any excess water. This next phase is what I call the phase 2 of the marination. You can do this about 3 hours before you need to serve the biryani. If your chicken was in the refrigerator, do take it out now at the very latest. It must come to room temperature. And if you have not added all the ingredients like the birista or whatever else you might have missed, mint, this is the time to add it. This is the last chance you get to add it. I had not added the aloo bukhara because I didn't have it at the time, so I'm going to mix them in now. There are a few other miscellaneous things we need, and you can do these at this point or even a little bit earlier, like the saffron. It must be dissolved in milk. The saffron is needed to color and flavor the rice. We need some dough to seal the biryani pot. Any old dough will do. If you're using a pressure cooker, you don't need so much. Just enough to seal the steam vent. And if you're using the Instant Pot, you don't need any at all. While I'm at it, I'm also going to prepare my cashews and raisins for garnish. And I'm just going to pan fry the cashews in ghee. You can also use oil. It only takes about a couple of minutes. I have already made my crisp golden barista right here. And then lightly toss the raisins in the remaining ghee or oil, or you can add more if you want. You don't want to cook them too much because they'll become hard. And finally, we're ready to put everything together and assemble the biryani. By this time, your chicken should have all its ingredients and it should be at room temperature. The rice should be ready, partially cooked, and your dough should be on hand. Some of the other things, if you haven't done, they can be done a little later. But the more you do ahead of time, the easier the rest of your evening or morning is going to be. At this point, it's about 2.5 hours before serving. Let's assemble our biryani. Keep a thick flat tawa or griddle to heat. For now, it can be on high heat. And the saucepan you choose to make the biryani, that should also have a thick base. I'm using stainless steel, but anodized aluminum or non-stick work well too. Heat the saucepan and add the ghee. So far, no ghee has been added to the chicken, only to the rice. And I'm not adding a huge amount for the amount of biryani we're going to make. I think it's a lot less than most restaurants add, but if you want, you can add more ghee. Add in the whole spices. I've only used bay leaves, but you can put in the other spices whole as well. The marinated chicken. Toss gently to coat all the pieces with ghee. Set them in a flat layer at the bottom. Once the chicken gets to a low boil, place the saucepan on our heated tawa. Lower the heat completely. Add the rice in an even layer over the chicken. If you are making biryani with raw chicken as we are, it is better to have only 2 layers in your biryani. The marinated chicken on the bottom and the rice on top. If you make multiple layers of chicken with rice in between, the upper layer is not going to cook. Other biryanis which use partially cooked or fully cooked chicken can have 2 or more alternating layers of chicken and rice in a tall pot. That does look very dramatic. Drizzle the saffron milk solution over the surface like so. And dot the surface with ghee if you like. Make a thick rope of the dough and place it around the rim of the saucepan. If you are using a pressure cooker without the pressure regulator or an Instant Pot, you don't need to use any dough on these. Then place the lid over the top and press down to seal it completely. This is an important step. We do not want any steam to escape while the biryani is cooking. All the steam coming from the chicken as it cooks is required to cook the rice. And also, it has all the flavors, so that's what flavors the biryani. If the steam escapes, it is likely your chicken will get dry and the rice will not cook. Pour some water on the tawa and on the lid of the saucepan. It's not required for chicken because it cooks quite easily. If you're making mutton biryani, it will speed up the cooking process a little bit. Restaurants also use burning coals on the lids of their biryani, but I haven't done it and I wouldn't recommend it for home. Make sure the heat is very low. This is how the assembly looks. The whole process of the assembly should take about 15 minutes. And then 2 things will happen during this time. 1, the chicken has to cook completely. If you're using chicken with bone, the biryani will take about 1.5 hours. If you're using boneless chicken, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And if you're using mutton, it will take 2 hours for this stage. After that, once that is done, you need to let the biryani rest for another 15 to 20 minutes before serving. Now, what I would suggest you do while this is now cooking is after about 15 minutes, just check on it, make sure that no steam is escaping. If it is indeed escaping, seal it quickly because if you lose a lot of the steam, the chicken is going to be dry and the rice may not be cooked. So that's not what you want. And now you can sit back, relax, mingle with your guests, have a drink, maybe occasionally go check on your biryani. As far as biryani is concerned, you don't really need to do anything for the rest of the time. About an hour later, you should be getting the wonderful aroma of biryani, the rice and the chicken all over your kitchen. If that has not happened, then I would say that something is wrong and you should take a little peek. Unseal the lid, open it up, and firstly the rice should be nice and hot, and by now it should be cooked. So just check on that. And insert a long, maybe knife or a narrow spatula or a turner down all the way to the bottom. And if you get a lot of moisture and a lot of liquid coming out, then probably the water is not evaporating soon enough. And that will happen if your heat was too low. So seal everything back again, increase the heat a little bit and keep it for maybe 15 extra minutes. So if it was about an hour of cooking, then just keep it for 45 minutes more and it should be okay. The biryani has been turned off after an hour and a half and it has been resting for its 20 minutes period. This is no matter how many times I make biryani, it's a little bit of a nervous time, only because unlike most other dishes, there is absolutely no visibility into what is happening in that pot for an hour and a half. Yes, maybe you took a peek in after an hour, but most of the time you don't need to, it just happens. So while 99% of times it will be perfect, sometimes you may find that it may need a little bit of tweaking and it may not be right. Not to worry, this is a pretty much a foolproof process. Let's see what has happened to our biryani. Okay, well, here goes. It smells wonderful. The rice looks perfect, the grains are separate and soft. And now we have to take the chicken out to make sure it's cooked well. And then of course we have to take the biryani out of this pot into your serving platter. You have to insert the spatula or shallow serving spoon all the way to the bottom like so and scoop out the chicken and rice. And there, the chicken also looks perfect. It is as it should be, soft and moist, and it will be quite delicate, so you have to be a little careful with this. There will be some moisture in the gravy down below. Don't worry about that, that just gets absorbed. If it's very watery, you actually got water with your spoon, then what you have to do is give your guests another drink and just open the biryani, keep it on a low flame on the stove for a little longer, maybe about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And that should take care of it. Make a little hole in the rice so that any excess water will evaporate. Here it is on the platter, garnished with birista and the pan-fried cashews. The raisins are optional. I have put them on, but many people do not enjoy sweet raisins in their biryani. You can keep them on the side for anybody who would like to have them. And that's it. I've served my biryani with a cucumber and pomegranate raita and some achari bengan or eggplant curry with pickling spices. Okay then, I have to go. The guests are eagerly waiting to dig in. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If so, do hit the like button and share it with your friends. Please subscribe to my channel so I can give you more content such as this. I have a lot of other chicken recipes. You can click on this playlist right here. I'll see you again soon. Happy cooking and thank you for watching.